This is a Founding Media podcast. Welcome to another episode of Masters and Founders. I'm your host, Dan Dillard. This week, we're sitting down at Ibble Studios in Austin, Texas, with the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn and my long-term friend, Joshua B. Lee. As someone who epitomizes the term serial entrepreneur, Josh has seen the highs and lows of being a founder and business owner and learned a whole lot about what really matters along the way. Josh got his start in 2003 working in online marketing for businesses like MySpace and Google, and over 2 decades that followed, went on to start 16 businesses and author a book called Balance is Bullshit. In 2014, Josh started his most recent venture, StandOut Authority, a company that helps businesses grow their influence and optimize the human connection through LinkedIn. Josh's energy and passion comes through in everything he does, but that wasn't always so. It took a bad bet and a loss of several businesses to make him realize you have to understand failure to be able to appreciate success. But that's a story best told by Josh. So let's get into that conversation. Josh, thanks for joining us here at Ibble Studios in Austin, Texas. What a fine space.
Man, I'm going to tell you, I'm excited to be here, even more excited to be in the studio. This is beautiful, man.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
We hadn't chatted with each other for a while. It's nice to catch up.
It is. We've chatted, I think, Dan, but overall, like we haven't seen each other
Right.
and like really been able to kind of sit down side by side and be able to have a chat about what's been going on, where we've been, that whole thing. So really looking forward to it today, man.
Thanks for showing up. I really am glad to see you for sure.
Yeah, man.
I want to get into, as you know, this Masters and Founders podcast is all about inspiring people and showing them stories of people that have done their own thing. And you have done your own thing several times over.
Couple times, yeah.
What I'd like to get to, just let's get right into it off the bat, is the founder story. Like, you're a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Done businesses left and right. What is this, number 6? How many businesses have you built?
This was actually 16. So yeah,
I am delayed.
It's okay, man. I mean, it kind of went through because it's funny when you kind of go through it a whole piece. It's a lot of people look at me when I tell them 16 companies, and then I kind of go through and talk about some of the first companies I started. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they go, wait a minute, how old are you?
Right.
Because it kind of goes through, because sometimes I have my Nike kicks on and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, maybe you're a lot older than I think you are. I'm like, yeah, I'm old. It's okay. It happens. But
look young, stay fit.
It's one of those pieces, man. I mean, I've done a lot of companies, some good, some bad. Some I just had to close, you know, and I did have 3 that I actually were able to sell. So, at 7-figure exits. So it's nice to be able to have those kind of things. And, I'm an open book, man. We can talk about it all.
For sure. Well, that's the main point here, is we want to get into the good, bad, and the ugly, because what I find is that as people are out there starting a business, maybe it's their first one, there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of maybe inferiority thought process in their heads, like, why am I supposed to be doing this? Or so many questions that come in their head. But it's nice to be able to hear other people that have been through it and say, oh, I'm just where I need to be right now. So that's the inspiration part. Let's go back to the first time you wanted to be like your first business. Do you remember that? Like, what did that look like?
It's funny because I kind of look back on it, and I think there's multiple different things from my own angle, from my mom's angle, different things of that nature. Mm-hmm. I mean, we probably shouldn't go back that far, because I could be like, all right, Dan, so I used to sell candy out of my locker at amazing margins because my parents would buy the candy and then I would sell it and I had 100% profit. It was great, but I assume you're not probably talking about my first job.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, something's in your head made you want to be like, hey, I think this is the way to go, versus working for somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of opportunities that I kind of kept on seeing as a young kid, being able to grow through. And you always get that question, do you believe people are either born entrepreneurs or become entrepreneurs? Right. And I think there's 2, one of both, right? Mm-hmm. I think I'm the one that was like more born into it, right? Being able to always see the angles, what opportunities, and being able to take advantage of them in a way. I think at first I took advantage of a way that I was taught, which was, how do I monetize this? Until I finally figured out that led me down, honestly, not a good path to how can I add value to this?
Right.
And so that was where different changes. And, you talk about my first company, which was a company called Leads and Feeds way back when. And what it was I got into the online advertising business back in 2003. And it's interesting because back then you really weren't able to get into it. I had left the mortgage industry. I was kind of saw the different opportunities. I was youngest corporate account executive at a company, GT Wireless, Singular Wireless, way back when. See, little things like that give away my age really quickly because people are like, dude, I've never even heard of GT Wireless.
GT, I actually have heard of GT, but that says something about my age.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. And then, I became a mortgage broker for a little bit, saw the writing on the wall there because I had moved out to California and realized people were, as I say, running over their own grandmothers to close loans and putting people in bad situations, which led to 2008.
Right.
And so I got in the online advertising business and, I was kind of blessed and cursed because, one of my first companies that I got into, it was what we call arbitrage, right? Buy low, sell high. So in that kind of situation, we had different traffic sources that we would actually get the traffic from. And then we turn around and sell to different advertising companies like Google, Yahoo, things like that. One of my first clients, and I got the contract for, was a company that a lot of people forgot about, MySpace.
Oh, wow.
So, I met those guys when they were first getting kicked off. And they were like, they were building it off of what they had seen and everything kind of going through. And they didn't know how to really monetize their traffic. And so I actually helped them, in essence, create one of the first social media ads that a lot of what we see today is based off of.
Wow.
And what we had done was built that contextual ad, and then we took that traffic and sold it to Yahoo, which was a whole nother company back then, Overture. I had to think about it for a second. It's been a couple bits.
It's been a minute.
And, it was great. I mean, we made a lot of money, but I mean, that's what it was all about, right? It was like printing money in my young 20s. I didn't make great decisions.
Right.
And so, because of that, I started going through and learning how to basically monetize everything online from every acronym you could think of: CPC, CPA, CPM, CPL. I mean, I could go through the whole piece.
Right.
But I don't know really how much I actually, added value because when I went back, Dan, I look at it throughout my career, the online advertising side, I've managed over $500 million in ad spend, and I've controlled over 35 trillion online impressions on my own servers.
Wow.
But I don't know how many people actually helped. And so I built a lot of companies during that time frame, but really it led me to a path that I had to kind of, in the long run, take a reset because, and I pause when I think about this because it's just a very tough point in my life because outside looking in, a lot of people saw me as successful.
Right. Yeah.
What do people consider successful these days?
Money.
Yeah, 100%, the monetary.
Yeah.
And I had that, but I'd become 45 pounds overweight. I'd never been overweight in my life. My friends were monetary and I had no vision about where I was going. I just knew where I was at.
Kind of feel soulless, maybe?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I think a lot of that happens to us in our 20s. I mean, not everybody, but I can definitely relate to that in the 20s because there's a lot of self-help books and it's like, crush it and go out there and get it, work, get up at 5 or 4.
You mean the work-life balance stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You wrote a book about that.
I did. Balance is bullshit. Right. So, because that's what really hurt me. I was trying to live this whole work-life balance that really hurts people comparatively to actually helping them because we don't have two different lives, just like we don't have two different personalities.
Right.
If we did, I'd be locked up in an insane asylum.
Right.
We have one life and we have to live that way. And it hurts so many people these days.
Well, and that goes back to what we were talking about. It's like when you focus your entire life on that money-making ability and it's soulless, it is your life. It's and so you have this reset that you talked about and rethinking, like, do I want my life to be about that? So that's an interesting, I love that you bring this up because I've been through the same thing. Yeah. And we've had these conversations before where life comes at you from different ways and it's not always the money. It's like, okay, there's other things that happen. And then you start getting, I call it getting roots. Like this was like in your 20s, you're focused on this, but there's so much more to life than that. Yeah. That 1-inch layer, right? And you got to go deep and figure out who you are as an individual.
100%.
So,
well, it's interesting too, as you kind of talk about that, it reminds me of the first time you and I met, because that was before I had gone through that reset of my life, because I was running a group at that time called Monsterpreneur.
Remember that?
And you would come out, and this is a little bit, where you were just kind of thinking about founding Austin and being able to build that whole piece, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
And,
thank you.
Outside looking in, like I acted like nothing was wrong, when internally, I was going through so much where, I ended up going through, and I mean, hell, I was in my office, Dan, and I remember, because I worked at home because I had my son, and, my office, I was wanting to open doors, and I remember that day when like that office doors closed and that office became like a sanctuary, but a coffin at the same time, where I would just stare at the wall every single day, contemplating my life to if the money for my life insurance would be better for my family than me.
Wow.
And I mean, it was a hard thing. And I mean, I was really, really blessed to be able to, a good friend of mine, Jesse Elder, that kind of gave me permission not only to take my life back, to give my former, because I went through a divorce. A divorce, I remember going through it. My lawyer's like, this is going to take a while. Said, no. I actually ended up closing 10 companies down, liquidating everything, and walking away at 36 with a little bit under $1,000 to my name, and moving back with my parents.
Wow.
To be able to restart my life.
Yeah. Those resets, though, are so powerful because I mean, I've interviewed entrepreneur after entrepreneur that have had similar situations where it's like sometimes you think you're on top of the world, and then life hands you something that you're not expecting. And all of a sudden you're eating humble pie.
Oh yeah.
But that's the best service that life could offer you.
It's the best thing that could ever happen to me. I wouldn't be doing the things that I am now, working with the people that I get the honor to work with, and have the clarity that I have now, if I hadn't understood. Because you hear so many things, people go, well, you have to fail to be able to succeed. I don't think you have to fail to be able to succeed, but once you understand failure, you appreciate success so much more.
Right. Well, there's this yin and yang, right? You in order to be happy, you have to have gone through the sadness.
Yeah.
And in order to feel what that success is, you have to have gone through, the bottom of the barrel and really have life kind of smack you around a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you can really appreciate where you're at, and that appreciation for life. And I see that in our conversations. We've known each other for a long time, and you've always been that really great friend that's there when I need it, right?
Yeah, of course.
And it's one of those things where I've always witnessed the experience in your voice of having gone through that, and that's what we need as entrepreneurs. We all go through it, and it's okay. This is a part of the journey, right?
But that's the thing, though, Dan. I mean, like, we're all told ahead of time that it's not okay. A lot of us, when we were younger, we were told, don't tell anyone about your cracks. The things that you messed up on, the things that went wrong, like, because then they're going to see you as weakness.
Right.
And what that does is make us feel alone as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like this on this island, so lonely. And that's why I think you and I both share so openly about what we've gone through, because we never want another soul, another entrepreneur, to be able to feel the same way we did, so alone.
Right.
And I mean, that's why I continue to be able to go, look, ask me anything. I'll go through, I'll share. I'll tell you the worst when, depression, all those kind of things, because I know other people feel that.
Right.
And I don't want them to feel like I did, feeling alone.
100%. One of the first things that when I first started founding Austin, it was just kind of an idea. I was sitting in my office and just kind of seeing, I don't know if I've shared you where this idea came from, but I was seeing parents put their kids through college, and these kids didn't know what they were doing. There was just a whole bunch of money just going down the tubes. And as a financial advisor at the time, I was like, this ain't an investment. This is not smart. How do you help the kids and the parents find their own path? And I thought, why don't I start interviewing some local people and just kind of figure out what their stories are? I interviewed the first person for the magazine, and I fell in love with the process because I immediately saw my own community. I saw a person who was going through the same things I was going through, had the same questions, had the same doubts, and still was pushing through. And so it's been an amazing journey since that very first article, and I still love it today, just like listening and sharing. And I've had so many comments and people come up to me and say, these stories really, really helped me kind of, on my path, they just are encouraging to know that we're not alone. We're all tied together. We're a community. It's part of nature. The older you get, you figure out that we're all one.
The older we get, yes. Yeah. I definitely feel that in my age as I continue to be able to go on, but it's through conversation. I mean, people going through and selling products and services change, shift, go away, disappear, fall off the earth, whatever it is. But as humans, as our story, as our journeys, they stand the test of time.
Right.
I mean, we've been doing since the dawn of man, being able to pass down our history, being able to pass down our story, to be able to hope to impart that knowledge on the next generation.
So they can do it smarter than we would.
Yeah. But how do we forget that sometimes as entrepreneurs? Like in business, it's like, don't tell anyone your secrets because then they're going to steal them. Oh, if you open up your book, your playbook, but I can't steal you.
Right.
Like I can take your idea, but but why would you do that anyway? But the real magic comes from the human being behind it.
100%. And I do think that there has been a shift and continually, hopefully continues this way. But if you remember back in the 80s when Wall Street movies and this and that, greed is good. And you have this mindset and it's like, oh, it's not personal, it's business. You have all these cliche sayings and you thought you had to be a hard ass in business to be able to succeed. And some people are. Yeah. And that's just the truth of it. Yeah. Right. But what I find more often than not is most entrepreneurs want to change the world for the better. They give back to society. They want to contribute once they, as they succeed, they want that. So there's so many more great stories that I've come across, which I completely value. And I do think it's part of the journey. You start off with these sayings, but as you grow, you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. Now it can be this way. And I can create my own path and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Love that.
What are you doing now? I mean, Stand-Up Authority. Let's talk about that.
What am I doing at StandOut Authority? I mean, these days I took what
I said stand up. I mean stand out.
StandOut Authority.
Stand out.
It's all good. I mean, here's the thing. I tried after that reset. I was going to be a life coach. Mm-hmm. I was going to do it. If you would see me, and I don't know if we saw each other during that time frame. Were we hanging out that much when I had my long hair, my man bun, and everything?
No.
So yeah, man bun. Mala beads. I was in the zone. In the flow. And I mean, I still am, but I mean, I wasn't as the pendulum swings, right? And so I was going to be a life coach. I was going through, and that's why I wrote the book, Balance is Bullshit, How to Live More Integrated Life, right? How to integrate the different aspects that make you, you. I really enjoy that, and I truly believe in that aspect, but I realized that being a life coach wasn't where I was truly going to make the biggest impact. And I figured I couldn't forget where I came from.
Right.
Understanding that marketing, that advertising, that background of business, I had to be able to blend the two, and that's kind of where StandOut Authority became, because, we are now the human algorithm behind some of the best thought leaders, influencers, change makers in this world, to be able to help them educate, inspire, and draw in their audience through the vehicle of LinkedIn.
Right.
And so that's where we really spend our time. Like, I want to be able to work with the people that are adding value to this world. They're leading with their heart, not trying to monetize it.
Right.
And so that's what we get to be able to do. And I mean, it's honestly super cool, because like my clients now are like men and women. I used to be able to read their books on how to be able to start my own company 20 years ago. And now I get to be able to like be with them and be their voice and be able to help them really truly build that humanization of their marketing, their connection to their audience is what we really strive for, being able to help really get rid of the B2B or B2C, right? Business to business or business to consumer, and truly go what everything really is, human to human, H to H, right? Because the biggest thing that I think most marketers forget is that every company is run by another human being.
Yep. Often, our sister company, Founding Media, builds podcasts for corporations. And the what I tell corporate is like your website's your suit and tie. It's what you do out there. But the podcast is the happy hour conversation. It's the hey, let's just chat, because and that's that human connection. People are so drawn to podcasts because it is the frank, just human connection. So
exactly. Well, I mean, I get to hear the tonality in your voice, the inflection, right? I get to be able to kind of hear how you talk to another human being, or you're being able to communicate. Like, you lose that in flat content a lot of times. And like, if I was just putting something on a social media ad or whatever, man, I can create an amazing video that I'm reading off the teleprompter for and be able to sound amazing and brilliant. But when two people like you and I are having a conversation, we're not scripted here.
Right.
You and I aren't reading off of notes. We're just having a conversation. The audience can truly hear that. And that's what I love about it.
This isn't tequila, by the way, it's water, but it could be at the end of the day.
We've been there, done that.
One of the things that I appreciate exactly what you said there. One of the things that I reached out to you a few months ago is this article you put out about this gambling thing that you did a while back. And I wanted to share. So you were in Vegas and you actually, I'll let you tell the story. I want the audience to hear it, because I was reading this flat content and I was like, this is really cool. I got to reach out and let's talk about this.
Cool in a way where, it cost me a lot of money, but
well, cool in a way that it was a learning story.
It was a learning story. I mean, because I learned a lot from it. And this is one of those things that I was in the past didn't share with others. So this was 2007, Las Vegas, Palms Casino, Playboy Club, all the way at the top. And everyone's like, oh, I can see where this is going.
Before the Great Reset.
Yeah, before the Great Reset, where I used to wear all kind of crazy flashy crap. I mean, it's just, I could only imagine, even though I didn't see it, right? Like, I always thought I was trying to add value and be able to do good. But at the same time, too, I was still trying to look for things. Oh, if I gave to you, like, it made me feel good too. And like a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as humans, as givers, that we take that as currency too, right? That feeling, and so, sorry, I'm getting on a whole different tangent now, but we're talking about the Playboy Club at the Palms Casino in Vegas. And I'm sitting up there, had a couple drinks with a buddy of mine. He had just sold his company for, I think, just north of the 20 million mark.
Wow.
And, we're sitting there talking, we're being guys, we're playing the whole, who's
macho,
big, who's macho, whatever, the whole piece. And he looks at me, he goes, Josh, he goes, I know you're working on building out a new code. I said, yeah. He goes, I just sold mine. Of course, man, I get that. And, he goes in there, he's like, look, we're sitting here, why not? I just told her that. I'm happy to be able to help you out. I'll get you there faster. He's like, how about I sell you my source code for 1.3 million? Wow. Well, I'm not going to say no. We're sitting here playing, we're playing cards. We're going through, he laid down his hand. I've got to be able to kind of lay my hand down and be like, I call you on it. So without even any kind of background, double check, stuff like that. And I was born and raised in Texas. So, I was always raised on, handshake. It's good. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's move forward. Well, that $1.3 million bet, over the course of the next year, as we kind of go through, we didn't do our due diligence and go through. It ended up costing me over $10 million over the next year in business. Wow. We lost contracts, we lost business. And I mean, it was a massive shift to be able to go. And in the long run, I found out I was just another opportunity because he needed to hit his earnout. A lot of times when you sell your company, there's an earnout period. You have to hit certain metrics every single year. Well, he needed my earnout to be able to hit his metrics to be able to go in there. So it wasn't like he was doing me a favor. He was accomplishing a goal for himself. Right. And, it was a hard thing because this was right before 2008 hit.
Wow.
I mean, we were bleeding towards the end of there, probably $300K, $350 a month.
Wow.
Luckily I wasn't like a lot of my friends who had spent a lot of their money. We had a lot of that savings. And, Dan, I go through this and I look back and I went through the company savings. I didn't want to let anyone go because, again, there's no difference in business and work.
Right.
Work and life. And I had a lot of the people there were my friends. I could talk about their families. And so then I went through my own personal savings. And I almost went to the point of bankruptcy to be able to try and say this when I finally said, hey, we got to stop. We got to reset. We got to go on. But it was a very tough lesson to go. You can't just assume people are doing the right thing by you.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I read that, came across my email, and I was just so curious about it. But this, is one of those things where failures happen. Mistakes are made, and big mistakes are made, and then you pay for them and learn from them. Yeah. Learn to do your due diligence and not do
You have to. There's certain different things that you go back in. Look, I continue to be able to move forward. There's other situations where we had different contracts with 2 different times we had a syndication to give. Most people don't realize in the online advertising world, not everyone gets their ads directly from Google or, wherever it might be, Yahoo. And so Google syndicated their ads to us. And then we would sub-syndicate that down to our network of publishers. And I mean, 2 different times. The first time we had some fraud that kind of came through. You try do your best to be able to catch it, but they were like, oh, nope, we saw this come through, fraudulent clicks. We're not going to pay you. Well, the first time was $500,000. Wow. And yeah, if you don't pay your publishers, even though they can't tell you who did it. And the first time we were like, we've got to be able to go against this. I'm going to try to use lawyers. I'm $120K in lawyer fees, and we get redacted documents. And it doesn't help us at all. And we're like, realize at this point, you can't fight Google. Right. And a lot of companies have realized that over the last couple decades. And we still have to pay your publishers or you lose everybody. Yep. And this happened a second time as well. And it was like, at that point, I was like, I've got to get out of this industry. Yeah. There's got to be a better way to be able to do it.
What is the things, if you looking back at your career, right? And it's still going, you're still growing and doing things. What are some of the proudest moments and some of the things that make you feel good and wake up and do it the next day?
Even though the divorce was hard, the proudest moment I did was realize that I can always make back more money. I can't make more time. And by making the decision to close down my companies and end everything faster for my children, for myself, for my former, everything like that, and be able to save that time. Because I see a lot of, my friends, probably your friends, other people, they allow some of these things, they get so tied into when a divorce happens. It happens a lot higher with entrepreneurs. Yeah. And they get so wrapped up into it in the minutia of the money aspect. Right. And it kills them. Yeah. And it takes forever and it hurts the entire family longer. And I mean, once I realized that and made the decision, it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was one of the best things that I did. And I look back and go, thank God, because my kids could have been dragged in it for multiple years. Right. So that was one of them. And then, 8 months ago, and I know it's hard with podcasts when we actually drop in dates and stuff like that. So I'm trying to not say the specific dates, stuff like that. But I got remarried about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. An amazing woman. And 8 months ago, she left her corporate world. Rachel she was on the up and up, man. Yeah. I mean, she was on the corporate ladder. She ran, did branding over the Microsoft Partner Network. And then she moved over to Gartner and ran branding over at their digital networks, 2 Fortune 100 companies. Yeah. And 8 months ago, she left and she partnered with me at StandOut Authority and helps me run the company. And I mean, truly talking about living that one life has been, if I look in those different aspects, those are some amazing things of highs and even taking it low and turning it into a high.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally get the first thing that you mentioned is at the end of the day, and you hit the nail right on the head, we can always make more money. And so the people, the kids, the family, having them suffer less through those kind of situations is absolutely wonderful. And then being able to, life circles all the way back around and being able to find someone else that not only inspires you and you're in love with and get married, but also goes into business with you. So that's
dude, she laid her bet down on me. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it's to be able to have someone to be able to have that faith in you, like the person that you spend the rest of your life with, it's amazing, right? To be able to kind of go through it. It makes you feel good. Like, I mean, she didn't have to. And she believed and had enough of faith in what I was doing and enough faith in me. And so that allows me to be able to kind of smile about everything I do every single day. Yeah. We're not perfect. Right. Like we're a husband and wife running a business, living a life together as a blended family. Right. I mean, look, there's a lot of things that go into that, a lot of challenges, but we're very proactive. I learned a lot from last time, making sure that, we seek our own counsel individually and together. Right. To be able to be proactive on the things that are going on. So many people go, oh, I can't tell anyone that I have a counselor, or I have a therapist or stuff like that. Yeah. And it's the smartest people I know in this world have someone that they go to, mentors, therapists, all those kinds of, and especially some of the best power couples I know in this world had the same thing.
It's such a great thing that you mentioned that. I've had a life coach the last 4 or 5 years, and it is life transforming because the life coach is a mirror to you. So and oftentimes you don't have, the spouse may not be that mirror that you need, and sometimes they are, but to have someone that can show you, hey, here's the things, here's how to improve and keep improving. Yeah. Such a blessing. Such a blessing. So I'm really happy to hear that you both have your individual counselors and also together, because I think it's important, because it gets your mind straight and clear. And
but Dan, so many people look at it, they go, oh, well, I've got to go see, I'm looking for someone to get help, or, I need to be able to see a therapist or something like that. Like, that's not a bad thing, man. You're taking action. Right. You're going through. It's worse when it's gotten so bad. Right. I wish I had the foresight when I was going through my depression before, right, when I was contemplating my own life, that, I had people to talk to me, and thank God I did. But I mean, like, I could have been more proactive and been able to speak about that, because and so it's not anything that you should be ashamed of. You should be proud of it. Like, look, I'm trying to be better each and every day. And, it reminds me of, I did this post the other day too, Dan, you'll appreciate this. So, there's a lot of species of shark in this world that they cannot stop swimming. They will even stop into a current when they're sleeping to be able to allow the water to be able to flow through their gills, right, to be able to keep them alive. Mm-hmm. So they never stop swimming. Right. Right. So that's the same thing as if you look at your life, or you look to a friend. If I look to you and I said, hey, Dan, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate me? Right. And it's hard for people to be able to ask for that feedback, but I never want a 10. Right. Because if you give me a 10,
comfortable.
Well, no, I might as well be dead. I've got nowhere to go. Right. Yeah. So, I always wanted the best I want to be able to shoot for is a 9. And I understand that most of us don't want competition, so it's hard to be able to ask that. Mm-hmm. But man, I've been able to get some of my closest confidants, friends, mm-hmm, that are actually really honest with me and lovingly call me out on my BS or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And these are the things that continue to be able to push me forward.
Yeah, no, I think that's so insightful to say that, because that's growth. Everything in nature grows all the time, and we're humans, we're growing. The second we stop trying to grow or get comfortable, start dying. Yeah. At the end of the day. So totally respect your viewpoints on that. And I lived my life very similar, always looking for growth the next day. And
I know that too, for a fact, with the conversations you and I have had.
How do we get there? All right. We're getting close on time here. I want to ask one last thing. Just kind of looking back, and again, this is for the audience. Looking back over what you've done so far, what would you do different?
I wouldn't be where I am today if I had done anything different, because I learned from everything. I probably would have made some decisions faster. Mm-hmm. I probably would have tried to release my ego a lot more. Yeah. I think that's some of the reasons why some of my decisions were a lot slower.
I'm on board with that.
But other than that, man, look, I can't complain. Right. Yeah, I've had some downs. Yeah, I've gone through some things, but I live a pretty blessed life. I've got 2 amazing kids, an amazing wife. I live here in Austin, Texas, like the freaking #1 growing city in the country these days. Right. Got a roof over my head, and I get to work with amazing people and have awesome conversations with guys like you on a regular basis. So yeah, I'm good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Love to hear it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Dan, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Wow. What an incredible conversation with a dear friend and inspiring founder. Thank you, Josh, for sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly of your journey. It's so encouraging for founders at every stage to know that with the right mindset, behind every loss, there's a win, as long as you keep going. The Masters and Founders team includes me, Dan Dillard, producer Candace Harrell, and audio engineer Jake Wallace. Thank you, everyone at Founding Media, for your support. Thank you, everybody at Ibble Studios, for allowing us the use of your studio. To see the video interview and other Founding Media podcasts, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes.